As many of you know, we are in the very early stages of a significant political realignment, which means government policies, cultural norms, and the rules for acquiring influence and power are all going to change dramatically. And obviously this past weekend has accelerated that change. I am not sure who was surprised by the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. He is, after all, an existential threat to democracy and a would-be dictator, according to some. Unless you believe everyone on the left are liars, which only an incompetent person would believe, just like only an incompetent person would believe that everyone on the left is stupid, you should take what people say at face value. People generally say what they believe, or at the very least, what they have convinced themselves to believe. And if Trump is quoting Hitler and literally citing insurrections and January 6th with literally an attempt to overthrow the government, then I don't see how it would be immoral to remove him from power using any means necessary, especially if you can't and won't beat him at the ballot box. The problem is, of course, I don't believe he's a threat to democracy any more than the fundamentally systemic threats to democracy built into our system, like the Electoral College. Nor is Trump a bigger threat than nuclear war with Russia, or a completely open border, or unregulated AGI, etc., etc., etc. I've said repeatedly, I will probably vote for Donald Trump. Not that it matters, because he's going to win at this point, guaranteed. While Trump has obviously benefited from all of this, the key ideological faction that continues its ascent are the Christian nationalists. Christian nationalism will be the defining idea or meme complex of the political right over the next few decades. It's not guaranteed to achieve dominance as it competes with non-religious factions on the right, like libertarians or the barstool conservatives, who are more socially liberal. And Christian nationalism will, of course, be forever plagued by internal theological disputes between Catholics, Protestants, etc. However, in the short-medium term, you are going to see an increased convergence around a vaguely unified Christian ideology on the right. Even libertarians like Dave Smith seem poised to adopt a Christian worldview.
I would agree with you that yes, there is something from God that instructs me as to what is right and wrong in this world.
Now, one of the driving forces of this convergence towards a Christian ethos is the victim narrative. Nothing strengthens one's identification with a group more than an attack on that group. The more that gay people are told they're degenerate satanic sinners, the greater the psychological impulse for them to say, yeah, f*** it, maybe we are, and then go embrace the very thing that people accuse them of. Just like the more that white people are told to sit down and shut up, the stronger the impulse to say, you know what, I actually like being white. Who wouldn't want to be on a winning team after all? So the more that people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens focus on the victimization of Christians, the more you are going to see the discourse shift towards a pro-Christian nationalist bend.
But what group do they dislike most? What group are they absolutely terrified of and hoping to eliminate? Well, it's Christians. That's who it is. It's Christians. Christian nationalism. People pray outside abortion clinics. People who celebrate Easter and not Trans Visibility Day. These are their real enemies. But that's been true in every revolution in the past 2,000 years. It was true during the Cultural Revolution. There weren't many Christians in China. They were the first to be killed. It was true in the French Revolution. They beheaded nuns. What did the nuns do? Were the nuns really an impediment to progress? No, the nuns existed, and they pledged a higher fealty to Jesus, and that was their crime, and for that they were killed.
As Christian nationalism continues to ascend, you're going to see all of the worst things that normal people hate about the left suddenly rising up on the right. You will see people like Candace Owens call for censorship of anti-Christian speech, blasphemy, saying something like, I'm okay with free speech when it comes to debating ideas, but not when it comes to blaspheming God. You will also see right-wing calls for censorship as they claim that calling Trump a Nazi is an incitement to violence. This is actually happening as we speak with the golem of Twitter, Libs of TikTok, who was against cancel culture until she realized she had the power to cancel old ladies at Home Depot for making stupid jokes. Another important mimetic shift that I want to comment on is happening in the conservative sphere, and it has to do with the downfall of Jordan Peterson, specifically his failure to deal with the extreme elements on the far right. He refuses to engage in any dialogue with people like Nick Fuentes and instead decides to call him a rat, which might be true, but not a particularly effective way of addressing the reasonable points that Nick Fuentes does sometimes make. Like the degree to which Netanyahu's degenerate and immoral regime exerts influence over the United States through outlets like the Daily Wire that Jordan Peterson happens to be employed at. I genuinely believe there is a part of Peterson that knows he is staying silent when obviously his whole thing is when you have something to say and you stay silent, you're a liar. I think he knows that he is staying silent and therefore lying about the degree to which there's a serious problem in Israel around religious extremism, and that there is absolutely valid criticism of Israel that you don't have to be a far-left pro-Hamas supporter to make. It's unfortunate because all of this opens him up for attack from people like Candace Owens, who is just going off the rails with her science denialism and very odd strategy of trying to claim that it's okay to call people a bundle of sticks and twigs because that's what it originally meant, and we should never agree to words changing their meanings. It's very strange stuff.
When I was growing up and I was reading English novels, when people say you're walking through the woods to get a it meant a bundle of sticks. And then they said you can no longer say this word that has a real meaning, right? A bundle of sticks, because some pervert took that and threw it as an epithet towards gay people. I think that's actually, that's a wrong way of thinking, because then what you're doing is you're allowing perverts to dictate society.
Peterson's downfall is also unfortunate for me because I happen to think there is an incredible amount of value in much of pre-Daily Wire Jordan Peterson's philosophical work, and it's going to be much more difficult to cite a pre-Daily Wire Jordan Peterson lecture without people just immediately turning their brain off because, oh, he's, obviously kind of losing it at the Daily Wire. It is incumbent upon everyone who appreciates the OG Jordan Peterson lectures to draw a sharp mimetic division between pre-Daily Wire Peterson and post-Daily Wire Peterson. And in doing so, we can rescue the archetypal father from the belly of the whale. And speaking of someone in need of rescue, Destiny is proving to be exactly what I've said he was for some time. An autistic, sociopathic truth machine who is probably more intelligent than almost everyone on this platform.
Do you condemn the shooter shooting Donald Trump?
No.
Wow.
Not here, not on this program, not in front of these people. Absolutely.
You do not condemn a deranged
not in front of
shooter
these people?
shooting
You are
Donald
truly
Trump.
just a child.
Now, while I obviously disagree with the underlying intent, I don't actually think it's so utterly incomprehensible that people who hate Trump would make jokes about him almost getting assassinated. To be honest, if he had died, then actually that would be completely different. But he lived. And while I think saying, I wish the shooter had missed is pretty immoral, it's called free speech. And unless someone is making a direct call for violence, you ought to be allowed to say whatever without the fear of being doxxed by a deranged schizo who became the very left-wing social justice cancel culture warrior that she set out to destroy. And what's more, you, me, and everyone watching this knows that if Biden, had an attempt on his life or fell and had to go to the hospital, conservatives would be making the same jokes about how, oh, it's a shame he didn't fall another step further on the staircase. Yeah, it's shitty, but guess what? People are shitty and don't deserve to have their lives destroyed. However, I actually don't know that many people, even the more coarser ones, who would publicly mock the fact that a father of two daughters was killed in the process of an attempted assassination.
You know what that dad did? The volunteer firefighter, guy that died? He threw himself on top of his family. Yeah.
That's why he was hit.
That's right. Yeah. Give me that masculinity, by the way. All right, let me rally again. All right. God bless that family, by the way.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude. The firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him.
It takes a certain level of sociopathy and unresolved childhood trauma, which I think Destiny clearly is in possession of, to think that doubling down on this edgelord position is going to pay off somehow in the long run. Although then again, I'm not sure exactly what Destiny's goals are to begin with. There's obviously a rational part of him that seems to be interested in reducing extremism and turning the temperature down. And there are many millions of people who don't watch his drama streams and aren't that familiar with him, who, based on how he presents himself very rationally and calmly in a lot of public forums, could very well be convinced by the good points he often makes.
The reason why I really like debater conversations is because it forces you at some point to make your ideas commensurate with the other guy. You have to, because you're having an actual conversation to each other, so you have to be able to speak to each other. And I think that exercise is really important because to some extent, it's humanizing the other person, right?
I don't like how people make fun of Trump supporters. I do think that needs to stop. Like, how the people that go on the street and then they just take the clips of the Trump supporters saying something stupid and then cutting it out of context. I can't stand that because these are, for the most part, really good people. And it just breaks my heart that they've fallen for a con artist.
Someone in the crowd that was just going to a rally who got fucking murked by this guy, and two others are in critical condition. I think it's okay to show a little empathy, don't you?
You're right. Hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't know somebody else died. What state was this in?
Pennsylvania. My state.
Swing state voter. Fuck you. Sorry, what?
I am not sure how courageously mocking a dead father from behind his keyboard is going to help his bridge building project, but that's kind of the point. I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares that he spent all this time trying to, bridge the center or whatever. He's willing to throw all that away because he's fundamentally interested in engaging in blood sports debate for debate's sake. And his sociopathic commitment to propositional truth makes him very good at this. So just as Jordan Peterson's failings have undermined his ability to appeal to as many people as he would otherwise, I think it's kind of sad and pathetic that Destiny is in the same boat. As always, good luck and Godspeed.